read online about HIV, but it's another thing to have conversations with other people also living with HIV and get that support. We talked about meds, criminalization, disclosure, and just generally our emotional and physical health.
A Mile in Our Moccasins is a new short documentary film co-created by 5 Indigenous youth who are dealing with HIV. We have one of those participants with us this morning and one of the Grand Pride Parade marshals for this weekend. Please welcome to Breakfast Television, William Flett.
Hello.
Welcome.
William, a real powerful story in this piece. TJ and I were taking a look at it, and 5 Indigenous youth living with HIV, and having the courage to share your story in a film is a powerful choice. What made you want to step up and share the story, not just in person with friends and family, but to put it in a film?
The 5 Indigenous youth, sort of like, from my point of view, all started sort of coming together around the time of what felt like last year, around summertime, where one of the participants in the documentary had this idea of an Indigenous talking circle in his mind for a while now, and at a Pause Youth Camp, Youth Unleashing Power, where all of the youth there age 18 to I think 32 are either living with HIV or Hep C. And there he was able to find and collect a few different Indigenous youth living with HIV that wanted to talk about their stories a bit more.
And for your story specifically, I mean, you address in this film, one, sharing it with friends and how different it is to share it with family. How challenging was that for you? Because the film addresses stigma still associated with HIV.
Yeah, disclosure can definitely be difficult, no matter what, but it could definitely feel differently depending on different contexts. If you're talking to one person, if you're talking to another, saying some random friend that you've known for a year is definitely going to feel different than a best friend that you've had since high school 10 years ago. And for one person, it might be easy for them to tell their friend from 10 years ago. For another person, it might be easier to tell a friend from 1 year ago. Someone else, they might tell nobody. They might only tell a family member, and it'll be different for everyone. And there's so many things to go in mind for that. It'll be hard to really say.
So, William, you mentioned a moment ago, and this really popped out for me, the Indigenous talking circles, and that is sort of where the idea for this documentary was born. Can you talk to me more about how important storytelling is in the Indigenous culture?
Storytelling has always been important, and even in modern iterations of keeping culture alive, talking circles are just generally important. So, and it's a good way for everyone to have an equal voice, and have everyone's voice to be equally respected.
Now, for Indigenous youth in Canada with HIV, are they being treated in a different way and supported in a different way than the rest of the youth with HIV in our country?
Generally, I would say yes, and that would be a good thing, mixed good thing, in that we know people that are Indigenous have higher rates of being HIV positive or being diagnosed with HIV than non-Indigenous populations, and we know that youth have the lowest rates of achieving an undetectable viral load, which is sort of at the very end of all this healthcare access that people have in terms of accessing medication, having successful interactions with that medication, and being able to abide to it in a way that makes the amount of virus in their body close to zero. So knowing that, all that in mind, with how youth have a very poor statistical relationship with HIV, and how Indigenous people have a very poor relationship with HIV statistically, with those things in mind, there's definitely still, even though that people that are Indigenous, people that are youth, are receiving this sort of special attention.
Maybe they need some more special attention.
Yeah, because clearly they're still falling behind.
Well, it's an important movie. And it's an important role for you this weekend with the Pride Parade going Sunday. Yourself and the other 4 participants in the film will be acting as Pride Marshals, Grand Marshals for the parade. We've been asking this question all morning long to people in the city. What does Pride mean to you going into this weekend, and especially with this role?
What Pride means to me? can mean a bunch of different things, but it'd be easy to relate it into the current theme of this year of Pride of Be You, in that we really like that it's has a broad, open interpretation of like knowing yourself and being true to yourself, in both like what you think of yourself as like how you open yourself up to others. And I really like how that is so similar to like this story of like honesty and openness and vulnerability that is in A Mile in Our Moccasins.
Well, you're leading the charge. VancouverPride.ca. You can check out William and crew on Sunday. Thanks for being here, William.